the dark, someplace blackened where you can't find me. I've been running, fighting now, hiding, always bull riding.
I'm Ralph Nervous,
Jay Antonio,
and you're watching Raising Awareness
now.
If you want to contact us, tell us about a personal experience, come on for an interview, share information by any means, contact us at raisingawarenessnow@gmail.com. Hit us up on our Facebook, Raising Awareness Now, or our YouTube channel.
Tonight we have a very special guest. Her name is Amy.
From Utah.
And she's going to be talking about her recovery as an alcoholic.
Via Skype, that means.
Via Skype. It's a great interview, so we hope that you enjoy it. So thank you for watching Raising Awareness Now, and enjoy the interview. I would like to introduce to you guys today someone who knows firsthand the battle of alcoholism. Her name is Amy, and she is our special guest this evening, straight in from Utah. She defines herself as an alcoholic, Mormon, mother, nurse, and the woman sitting next to you at the ball game. Amy, thank you so much for joining us today on Raising Awareness Now.
Thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
I was reading your description on your Facebook page, XOXO Ames. You mentioned that you would keep a bottle of 100 proof alcohol in your closet to escape. My question is, when did this urge to escape reality through the use of alcohol begin for you?
You know, it started towards the end of my 15-year marriage. About the last year, I knew things were starting to unravel, and having been raised Mormon and being part of a very close-knit Mormon culture, it was frowned upon to drink or use alcohol of any kind. So it was something I just sort of started sneaking in a way to rebel against my community, rebel against my marriage, just to do something that I felt like was strictly for me. So it like I said, started about 5 years ago, something I just started sneaking to get away from the life that I knew was coming to an end.
You also mentioned that bit by bit you became overwhelmed with life. If you don't mind, what was it in your life that caused you to overwhelm?
You know, sometimes I feel silly even talking about it, because after having gone to rehab and meeting all the different people in treatment from all around the world, I heard a lot of stories of tragedy and sadness, and mine wasn't ever anything really devastating. My 15-year marriage ended. I was a single mom, just trying to get through day to day, and within about a period of a week, my best friend died unexpectedly. My ex-husband remarried, and my dad was diagnosed with cancer and had one of his kidneys removed. And again, you know, there are people with far more tragic stories than mine, but that was kind of the beginning of an unraveling for me, where I started turning to alcohol more and more just to try and cope with things that people deal with every day. I stopped trying to cope with them.
How would you define alcohol abuse?
You know, in my experience, I would say alcohol abuse is when you use it to run away. There are ways to drink socially, to unwind, but when you start using it as a way to not function, not deal with the reality of your own life, I think that's an abuse.
Were you functionable?
I was highly functioning. I was a flight nurse at the time. My job was in a helicopter. I worked 7 days on, 7 days off, but we had 12-hour shifts, and so I knew exactly what time I could start drinking and what time I had to stop drinking in order to perform my job without getting in trouble. So yeah, I was definitely functioning. I learned how to work my disease around my life.
Earlier, Ralph and I were discussing the three main characteristics of addiction, those being loss of control, denial, and preoccupation. Tell us your experience with these three characteristics. Let's start with the loss of control.
Loss of control, I think that's anybody that's in the depths of an addiction of any kind, where we're willing to put our drug in front of anything. And it got to a point where, you know, I wasn't in control of my day-to-day. I let alcohol control it. It controlled where I went, what I did, what time I got home. Everything was gauged around when my next drink was going to be. And so, while I felt like I was highly functioning, like I just said, I was, but at the same time, the drink controlled my life. It dictated everything I did because I knew how long I could go before I would start to shake or get antsy or filled with anxiety. I knew exactly what time I was going to need that next hit, and I knew how to do it. It controlled everything.
Yeah. And then what about the denial?
Oh, dude, that was every single day. That was denial, even in rehab. I was the happy-go-lucky. I was the Mormon. I was, the girl next door in rehab, and I walked through the steps and I did everything the way they told me to do them, but I think in the back of my head I still just thought of myself as a girl with a little drinking problem. I wasn't an alcoholic. Even after rehab, coming out, a couple of times that I relapsed were strictly because I was in denial that I had a problem that I was going to have to actually fight every day for the rest of my life.
Did you black out a lot?
I wasn't the blackout type of drinker. I started from the minute I woke up, and I drank consistently throughout the entire day, and would drink enough to, fall asleep heavily, but I didn't have a lot of moments where I don't remember things. There are very few occasions that I drank to blackout status.
And what about the preoccupation with your drug of choice, alcohol?
It goes along the lines of what I said as far as, the loss of control. I was preoccupied with it in that, like I said, I knew that first thing in the morning I was taking, a hit, and I knew exactly how many swallows it would take to get me to the level of buzz I needed for that morning. I knew exactly how many drinks to take throughout the day to maintain that buzz. And I would plan my day around getting home to the drink if I didn't have it with me, if I couldn't drink in front of who I was with. Then everything in my day revolved around when I could get home and get more. Because if I couldn't, that's when I started to fall apart. So everything was a preoccupation with where that next drink was going to come. Vacations, work, time with friends, everything revolved around it.
How did you hide it? Because, 100 proof alcohol is pretty strong stuff, and I imagine that was probably coming off of you through your pores.
And I've asked people that a few times in hindsight. How did you not know? How did you not smell it? How did you not sense it? And I think I was really, really good at it. I think I did it long enough. For a long time, I knew when I was too far gone to be around people, and I would avoid people. And it got to a point where I just kind of maintained a level that with a lot of perfume and gum and just trying to keep my cool, I was able to pull it off. And also looking back, I think people knew more often than I gave them credit for knowing. People just got tired of the game with me, and it was just easier to act like they didn't know, or to even be in denial themselves instead of try and confront me and deal with my anger or my resentment.
Did I heard that Southern Comfort was the brand that you enjoyed? I know as myself, you have a preferable brand, but when the budget came, was it anything? Was it down to the cheapest drink at the end?
No. It actually it just started costing me that much more.
Okay.
I am embarrassed to say there were many, many times where, my $30 bottle cost me $65 because I was in overdraft and I didn't care. So I would just run the card knowing it was going to chalk on another $35 overdraft fee. So I was very particular. I kept drinking what I wanted to drink. I went in the hole for it time and time again. Or I would save cash. I would give up other things just to make sure if it was dinner or a new bottle, then it was the new bottle.
There's that preoccupation showing itself again, yeah.
To share another personal story of myself, I know that I used to always enjoy every day after work at least 2 cans of Miller Lite. In the shower, that would totally relax me and get me set off for the night. So, we're just sharing our stories, to humanize everything. Yeah. That's why we're trying to do this. And that was one time in my life, and things change, but I'm not embarrassed to say it.
Yeah, I'm not embarrassed to say it. I started my day with it. I'd take a hit before I even jumped in the shower. They were the best showers of my life. And like I said, yeah, it didn't matter. It was hidden in my car. It was hidden in my closet. It was hidden in my suitcase. I just drank it where I could get it.
So what was the biggest lie that you told yourself about your alcohol abuse?
You know, we're full of lies when we're in our addiction. And picking one big lie would be tough. I think the biggest lie that I told myself was that I wasn't hurting anybody else. That for whatever reason, what I was going through at that time justified my behavior. That I wasn't an alcoholic, I didn't have a problem, and as long as it helped me cope for, through my day-to-day, I wasn't hurting anyone else. My children didn't know I was drinking. My friends didn't know. My family didn't know. I worked really hard to convince myself that I was the only one it was affecting.
So some family members of alcoholics also ask that question, well, if he or she loves me, why don't they just quit? How would you answer that?
When I went to rehab, we have what we call a ring of fire, and basically it's the addict, which was me, and a family member in the center of a ring, and you're able to say, how did my addiction affect you? And then they reply with, your addiction affected me. And then they say what happened. And one of the things my mom asked me, was point blank, just how could you? And I've thought about that a lot. And the best way I can describe that is it wasn't me. And when you're in the middle of an addiction, your ability to reason, to feel emotion, to function like the rest of society functions is gone. And I mean, I have 4 kids that I love more than anything in the world, that I would never intentionally do anything to harm. But I drove around with them, drunk as can be, and didn't even think about the consequences at the time because I was numb. And it's not me. It's not my personality now. But at the time, I was not in control, and it wasn't me. I love them dearly, and I let alcohol overtake that.
Yeah. I think that's a really important point for anyone that's watching today that might be a family member of an alcoholic to understand, is that this is a disease, and this disease in some ways could be described as a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of disease, where when you take this potion, this alcohol, you become a totally different person. I recall a few sessions I had with a therapist at one time when I was undergoing treatment for alcohol abuse, that he said, you are scientifically not sane when you're an alcoholic. You're not sane. He goes, anything you say, anything that comes out of your mouth, he's like, it's a totally different person. It's a person that is insane. He goes, and so I feel like for family members, it's important that they understand that this is not an affront on them, that it's not we're not trying to not love them. In fact, if anything, we want to love them, but we're suppressing that love by drinking because we're basically self-absorbed, absorbed in our own problems and our own issues.
That's exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself. I remember in treatment when I was trying, saying a prayer every single night, just begging God to bring that love back into my heart, to make me feel the way I felt before I was so sick, because I wanted it. But even when I wanted it, even when I wasn't drinking, it was something I really had to work to get back. I was very, very sick.
What do you think about trying to moderate the use? Does that work at all for an alcoholic? Like, I'll drink a little bit.
It doesn't, and I had to learn that the hard way. I spent a lot of money on treatment and came out and didn't work a program and didn't, like I said, didn't admit to myself that I truly was an alcoholic. I just simply didn't drink for a long time. And I got to a point where I was extremely complacent and cocky and just felt like, I don't have a problem. I can have a drink at dinner like everybody else. I can drink like a normal person. And that one drink, I mean, that's it. That was just the little crack in the dam that released the floodgates that justified drinking all over again. I have yet to meet an alcoholic that can just have one drink, that can moderate, that can do it the way normal people can do it. It's a disease. It's an allergy of the mind, and we can't stop once we start.
You're really hitting home, a lot of ways. We have family members, alcoholics. It's, maybe as Hispanics, it might be in our heritage or, social gatherings. But I know what you're saying, it's an allergy of the mind. It's a sickness and normal. And for myself, it's like, I want to be able to, I'm going through a process where I want to be able to say, I don't want to say, oh, I can't have a drink. Because it kind of feels, it feels weird. It feels like, I don't know, I feel like I have a disease, to say, oh, I can't, no, because I'll do this. And, it's like you're admitting way too much. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I said, I guess is it denial?
Yeah.
Denial on myself.
I think one of the things, too, this is going to sound kind of odd, but with my personal experience, my brother was an alcoholic. And I grew up with him and looked up to him, and I still do. He is now doing very well. He has his own family, steady job. He's also a what is called like a ministerial servant in the congregation. And, he's doing really, really well. And with him, I notice he has been able to moderate. He'll go to a functioning or gathering, have 2 or 3 beers, and then he's done. I think really for him, that primary ability is his connection with his, his God, his spirituality. So for me, it made it that much more difficult because every person is different. And so with me, I thought like, oh, wait, my brother, look, he's fine. But my alcoholism is a lot different than his. His, he was roaring 20s and going out and just, blowing them back and everything else. He stopped, got married, had a few major relapses over the years, and then eventually he started to settle down and get really into the religious organization that he's involved in.
I think too, bro, that maybe he's ready to cope with the issues that maybe made him drink. Because definitely for myself, I'm gonna try the whole moderation thing for a minute because just the lifestyle I lead, and it's like I don't know, it just I enjoy it, So, but that whole stigma.
Yeah, I think really you have a major part of alcoholism is you have to be ready. You have to be ready to admit to yourself that you're an alcoholic.
Yeah, limits. The consequences of being tired at work and the consequences of not having any more money. And all those things are, devastating to a family.
Amy, what would you say is the first step to recovery?
It just goes along with exactly what you guys said. The first step is admitting that you're powerless. It's like it says in 12 steps in AA, admitting that you were powerless and that your life had become unmanageable. That was the first step. I had to admit that I had lost control of my life and that I was powerless over alcohol. Once you can admit that, then you have a whole new respect for it. And you realize that it's not something that you have the power to control.
Yeah. As mentioned earlier, you have a Facebook page, and you also have a website. Can you tell us about the purpose and the goal of these 2 sites?
Yeah, so when I was in treatment, we did a lot of writing, a lot of our, doing the steps, therapy, it's just writing, and I enjoyed it a lot. I realized I had a little bit of a knack for it, and I just felt really strongly that, especially coming from the community I come from, it's a predominantly Mormon community where drinking is frowned upon, and so if you do it secretly. I just realized I had an opportunity to just be honest and open and not only create accountability for myself, but just just reach out to people who might still be struggling or living with someone who's struggling, and keeping it to themselves, just realizing they're not alone. And more often than not, I mean, we're all battling some sort of demon. So I started the blog just, like I said, as a chance to make myself accountable, to put it out there, let the world know what I was doing. So that, the times that I did fall, which I did, I've relapsed a couple of times, I had support, and I had a reason to get back on the horse, so to speak. And in doing so, I have gotten hundreds of messages from complete strangers who can relate on some level, whether it's drugs, alcohol, overeating, depression, living with somebody who's battling, one of the same. Everybody has something that they're keeping buried, and so the blog was a way to kind of open up that discussion, and then the Facebook page just kind of branched off of there just as a way to connect with more people. Everybody has Facebook, so the page was just recently developed at the end of last week, actually, as a way to reach out so that people knew that the blog was out there.
What do you think about counting days of sobriety?
That's interesting, because obviously it's a huge part in the 12-step program. And when I first started, I was really gung-ho. And then when I started kind of relapsing, in the back of my mind, I would always think, man, if I hadn't screwed up, I would be at this many days. And it got to be a little bit of a depressing thing. And so for a long time, I stopped counting. I'm back on a count. I'm at 61 days today. And I do that simply because I'm able to look back and think 61 days ago was a really dark place. And 61 days ago, even 3 days seemed like a lifetime away. So that count it's not everything, but it gives me a little bit of strength when I'm really, really jonesing for a drink, and I stop and think, 61 days is a lifetime, and I've made it this far. I'm not willing to give that up and start over. So it means different things to different people, and it doesn't work for everyone. Like I said, for me, it was really depressing at first, but now it's a badge of honor, and every day I'm one step further from my last drink, and I don't want to start over. So I count my days.
Do you have to stay away from the scene or, pizzerias or things like that where everyone's drinking?
I do. I have to stay away. When I'm in a huge group like a concert where there are thousands of people and everyone's drinking, I actually do okay. As long as I'm with people. You leave me alone and it's game on. I don't know what I'll do. What I've learned through my relapses is, especially in intimate situations, if people are drinking, I want that. I want that carefree feeling. I want those inhibitions gone. I want to be that much funnier and that much more rhythmic. I am a hell of a dancer when I've got a little buzz going.
Aren't we all, huh?
So, yeah, I know. I'm a white girl.
We're all singers, too, when we...
So, but SoCo's got moves, and it's really hard for me. And, I'm single. I've tried dating people who drink, and they're all super supportive. Nobody wants to drink in front of me. Nobody wants to be the reason that I relapse. But even knowing they're drinking and trying to hide it from me or whatever, it just triggers something in me that I still desperately miss and really battle every day. So for now, I stay completely away. I know I've learned through relapsing that that's not someplace I'm comfortable yet.
Earlier you were talking about, Ralph brought up the counting of days, 61 days. Congratulations.
Yeah, congrats.
Keep moving that forward. But you have a goal at the end of 1 year, is it?
Yeah.
I read an interesting story that you had posted on your website. Her website, by the way, is sheisperfectlyimperfect.com, and it's this goal that she has is to go to Thailand. Could you kind of tell us about this story that you have there?
Yeah, so as I mentioned on the blog, when I got sober again this time, it was sort of accidentally. It wasn't a concrete decision to stop drinking one day. It was simply a matter of events that had kept me from drinking, and I made it through 24 hours, and so I thought, let's see if I can do this again. And subsequently, after about 4 days, I did finally dump out the last of my whiskey, and it was a little bit depressing, and I wasn't sure I was going to be able to pull off. You know, when you start thinking about a year away, when you can barely make 24 hours, it's completely overwhelming, and it's something that makes a lot of us cave because it just seems like the impossible dream. And so I was sitting there. It's always been a dream to go to Thailand, and I thought, you know, it's damn near impossible for me to make it a year. So I'm going to have the impossible reward. And so I decided to just Google someplace in Thailand. So I Googled Thailand beaches, and this beautiful island called Phuket came up. And of course, I didn't know that was how it was pronounced. It was just spelled Phuket, and I thought, that is my island. I cannot think of a better place to shoot for. At the end of a year, that all I want to do is say, fuck it. And
Right.
that's the end goal, is to say I made it through a year of just, instead of saying, you know, F it and taking a hit of my whiskey, I can just say in the back of my mind, F it, and know that I am going to end up in a place of beauty, a strange land, something I've never been able to experience. And coincidentally, they do what's called the Lantern Festival, and I'm sure you've seen pictures of it. It's famous, and it just happens to be about 12 days after my 1 year mark. So it just, you know, call it a God thing or just a crazy coincidence, but I'm going to be able to be there at a time that symbolizes the new, you know, a new birth and letting go of old troubles and worries in a symbolic ceremony in a place, you know, a million miles from home. And, you know, it has kept me going the last 61 days. When I want to just say F it and take a drink, I can say, no, you know, I'll start over, and I won't be able to be there for that. So it's just kind of the pie in the sky right now, the dream.
Yeah, she's going to fuck it Thailand. Yeah.
Awesome. Do you, are you training, or are you to switch over from drinking? Are you doing hobbies or exercising, those kind of things?
You know, I am. Some of the things, I've started writing a lot more than I ever used to, and then my meditative place is outside. I love to hike, and I love being in the mountains, and we are surrounded in serious snow right now, and I hate to be cold. So I've actually had to adjust. I bought a whole bunch of winter gear and snow boots and spikes and things I can go out in the mountains in this hideous weather, and it's kind of taken a new high. It's exhilarating, and it's something that has, you know, when I need a rush and when I need to get out of my head, I just go freeze my butt off out in the mountains, and it's helping.
Speaking of the exercise, when you used to drink, did you binge eat also, or did you cut out meals? There's different types.
I didn't eat, and that has been a problem for me since I quit drinking, because I eat a lot now, and it's showing. But at the time, my calories were all from alcohol, and it was an appetite suppressant. If I was hungry and I took a couple of hits, I wasn't hungry anymore. So I was kind of the opposite. I didn't gain while I drank. I actually was a lot thinner when I was drinking. Dang it.
Unhealthy, though.
Well, Amy, we really appreciate you taking the time to be here on Raising Awareness Now. It's been an awesome opportunity to have you come on our show. We thank you for your words of inspiration and hope. You have this uncanny ability to bring levity to a serious situation, which is good. And I think, you know, these are serious issues, but there are times where there has to be that levity. There has to be that little bit of humor to kind of, you know, make it not so dark or seem so sinister, but to know that there's hope at the end of the tunnel. We want to let everybody know that you can read more about Amy's journey and other inspirational real-life stories on her Facebook page at XOXOAmes, or you can also check out her website. She is perfectlyimperfect.com.
Well, thanks, you guys.
Well, it was awesome having you on. Definitely, you hit some points. We got to do this again. We feel like we didn't get deep enough. But
I'd love to do this again. I could talk to you guys all night.
for sure. If anyone wants to get a hold of us, what they could do is they could go to Raising Awareness Now, Gmail, Facebook, YouTube, all those, and submit topics if they would like to contribute or have an interview like this. I think Skyping is the way to go. Huh?
Yeah.
It seems like a success.
It is a success. Our next webisode is going to air on January 28th, and we will continue to raise awareness now about the topic of alcoholism. Be sure to tune in and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Raising Awareness Now, so you can catch all of our webisodes and continue to be aware. Thank you for watching Raising Awareness Now. Real issues, real people, real life. Have a wonderful and hope-filled day.
Let's wave. Let's see.
Bye.
How about you? How about you?
Wave.
I'm somewhere dark, someplace blackened where you can't find me. I've been running, fighting now, hiding, always bull riding. Ain't no one besides me. I am the man. No one understands.